I can make this amount of money, if I can become a millionaire at 30, so can you. The biggest one for me was this belief that money is inconsistent. Money's not tied to time, money's not tied to hard work, money is just energy. Everything that you learned about money, you took in as truth, and that became your comfort zone. The key is,
if anger or frustration or drama or chaos is your like baseline foundation from 0 to 7, you will always find a way to put yourself back.
You will always manifest what is your comfort zone, even if it consciously you don't want it. This is just what you've been programmed and what you believe is your safe zone.
Hot take, the biggest block is believing that you have a block.
I don't know what it is, but I just can't get more clients. I'm like, well, money is made to be fucking enjoyed.
Welcome to the show, Marley. I'm so excited that you're here. We have so many mutual friends and clients, but we've never really gotten the chance to like connect on a deeper level. So I'm really excited to have you on and to get you like to be able to ask you all the things and to just hear so much more about like your life and your journey and all the wisdom that you have to share. So I'm really excited selfishly that you're here, that we get to talk and kind of dive deeper. And I also know this conversation is of course going to bring so much value to the audience. So welcome to Make Shift Happen.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I know it's been like a long time coming, I feel. I'm curious. I kind of want to start a little bit with your sort of like origin story, because I feel like this is something that I've seen a little bit in your content, but I don't like know the whole background of how you like became the person that you are and what motivated you to be so deeply invested in this idea of mindset work and subconscious reprogramming and clearing limiting beliefs and so much of the work that you do today. So this is a question that I sometimes ask my clients that I think is really fun. But the question is like, if you were to write a book about your life, what is the juiciest part of the story, or like one of those climax moments that you would inevitably have to tell in order for like the rest of your like hero's journey to kind of make sense?
I love that question. Okay, that's really good for me because it narrows in, because I just was telling Sam, I was like, I love to talk. So if you're like, what's your story? I'm like, okay, how long do you have? So I would say that chapter was the beginning of 2019. So I had a dabble in working for myself. I told myself growing up that I would never work for myself. I saw my parents as entrepreneurs and it was like failure after failure. There was always never enough growing up. It was really unstable, really inconsistent with money. And I was like, when I get older, I'm going to become a CEO and I'm going to have benefits and I'm going to have the salary, I'm going to have the car. Like that was my dream, is to have this safety and consistency around money. And what I saw growing up was that was just not entrepreneurship. So I made it very clear in my mind, I will never be an entrepreneur. I looked at what was happening and I was like, that's not for me. I want to be a CEO. You know, growing up, digital nomads were not a thing. So when I finished university, I actually took the leap and I went right into starting my own business. My first business was designing websites and logos, because I read The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, and I just like idolized and dreamed about this idea of being able to work from anywhere on my laptop. And long story short, it just kind of fell in my lap and I started doing it. And it was at the end of 2018 when I took my first trip to Australia, and I was not like making money. Like I wasn't like saving money, but I was traveling and I was like breaking even. And that to me was like, I've become a millionaire. Like that was the coolest thing ever to me. And I had started in meditating and personal development. I was dabbling. I had think I listened to like my first podcast. So for the first time in my life, I felt like I was doing something that I truly wanted to be doing. It felt such like a yes. And I never had that in university or in school. Everything felt so forced. And this felt like true excitement and joy. And at the beginning of 2019, I came home from Australia, and against everyone's suggestion, everyone's like, why are you coming home? Like, don't come home, stay in Australia. You're so happy there. But I had got offered this job offer at actually the college that I went to, running their entrepreneurship center. And I was like, that's so interesting, because that's actually something that I want to do. I always wanted to work at the college that I worked at. And I was like, this is perfect. Well, I built my business and it can actually start making me money. Then I can like learn on their dime kind of thing. It's perfect. But I was going back in January. And the whole reason why I started my own business is to avoid winter. I detest winter. I'm a plant. I thrive in sunshine. I need to be out by the ocean, under palm trees. That's when I'm my happiest self. And so living in Canada, especially London, Ontario, where I went to school, it's -30. And like, it's just not fun. Okay. That's just not for me. So when I came home, everyone's like, what are you doing? It's like the middle of January. And I don't know. I just feel like I have to come home. And I feel like this is the first time I followed my intuition. And 2 weeks after I came home, my dad ended up committing suicide. This was one of those moments where, because I'm from such a small town, I never knew anyone who had experienced this. It was like what you read about in books or like the news. I just never in a million years would expect my dad to do that. My dad was and still is my best friend. He was like my biggest hero, and to lose him like that just was impossible to me. And I called my friend that night, or the day that I found out. It was one of my best friends, like soul sisters that I met when I was in Australia, and she had lost someone really close to her. And I called her right after my mom called me, and I said, like, what do I do? And she was like, and I swear like the universe spoke through her, but she said, like, I just don't want this to make you lose your sparkle. And I was like, you're right. And I refused to let this moment break me. I didn't know what, I had no guide to how to grieve. I had no guide of how to heal through that. I had never been to therapy in my life. My parents couldn't afford therapy growing up. I'd never done any sort of healing. So I decided, okay, this is actually when I get to go to therapy, because it was subsidized through the government because of what had happened. And I went into Reiki. It just kind of was like, my mom had always been like a very like natural, like quote unquote back in the day was like hippie healer. And so she told me about Reiki, and I had no idea what this was. And I was like, okay, I'll just try both, because I would try anything to not let this like ruin my life. It was, oh, I mean, since that moment, I've been on this healing journey, and that's what I would say was like the beginning of my life in a weird way, because I started committing to healing. I started committing to my spiritual journey. I started my whole personal development, and I started on this journey of learning about the subconscious mind and learning about it. It wasn't overnight, but it's just like the more I dived into it, I realized that everything came to a subconscious mind. Everything came down to rewiring your beliefs. And I started applying those tools to my business, because I was also growing a business at the time. And then my business would perform in ways that were irrational, like illogical, and everyone would be like, how are you earning like this much a month living in Australia? Like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm like, I'm just doing this. Like, aren't you guys all doing this? And everyone's like, no. And what I was doing is I wasn't doing the logical business thing. I wasn't following the Alex Hormozy funnel. I was just clearing my limiting beliefs about money. And that's what had the biggest quantum leaps in my financial reality. And so to bring you up until this moment in time is like, what I do now is I help entrepreneurs make a lot of money, but I'm not going to teach you about your funnel. I'm not going to talk to you about your sales page. I'm going to help you live a really fulfilled, happy life. Because as much as I love money and I love teaching money, it's still, you can still make a lot of money and be really miserable. There's a lot of really miserable millionaires. So it's about really getting to your soul essence, doing what you are meant to do on this planet, and then clearing and rewiring any of these lies, these limiting beliefs that you've told yourself and you've been programmed through childhood and passed down that honestly aren't even yours in the first place, and rewiring to completely change your reality. Like, I do not come from money. I actually don't, like, growing up, my model of what I wanted is completely the opposite. Like, my parents separated, everything was, I got modeled exactly like what I didn't want, but it was perfect. My parents, it's nothing against my parents. My parents were perfect for me and my soul journey. But I've had to overcome so much of this programming. And then I feel like I had to do that so I can show to others. Like, if I can do it, so can you. Like, if I can come from that and achieve this, then so can you. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter how much money your parents have. It doesn't matter if whatever these blocks that you keep telling yourself, anyone can do this. And I really believe on the other side of healing your limiting beliefs, reprogramming whatever you've been taught, that you can achieve anything. Like, if I can attract my soulmate, if I can make this amount of money, if I can become a millionaire at 30, so can you. And that's why I'm so passionate. That's why I like get so excited to come on these podcasts, because I want to like scream it from the rooftops of, you don't have to suffer, you don't have to be in this financial burden, you don't have to be like this. And I know how it feels. I've spent many years of my life feeling very anxious, very depressed, feeling like, what's the point? But to be feeling like this, I'm like, okay, I feel like these tools are not even that known about. They're not that commonplace. And I feel like it's a part of my journey to make them commonplace.
Yeah. And I think sometimes I think a lot of us get this distorted view of some of these tools, of thinking that everybody knows this, everybody does this work, because we're in this like bubble of like a very small niche subset of the population. But it's like everyone who we follow on Instagram or TikTok, like our whole like algorithm is kind of this type of content. And so we assume like, okay, this is, really well-known knowledge. Like, everyone knows how to do this. People are using these tools. People are doing this work. And that is always so humbled when you go out into the real world and you're like, oh, like people don't they don't actually know. They're not using these tools. Like, they're not emotionally regulated. They are not clearing their limiting beliefs. They don't believe in their potential. They're not pursuing anything greater for their lives. But it's a lot of the times because they don't know that there's a better way. They don't know that there's this other like option of something that they could do that could create this incredible life for themselves. So I feel the same way in terms of like being so passionate through the podcast and content and all of these modalities that we use of sharing this, because there are so many people that know it, yes, but there's way more people that don't know it. And that's what I'm really excited also to kind of like dig in a little bit deeper with you about, of even like unpacking just more of the deeper layers behind this and how this changed your life and is changing your clients' lives and has the power to change anyone else's life who decides to do this work. You mentioned becoming a millionaire by 30, and I know that you've shared some of the limiting beliefs or fears that you had to clear in order for that to be a possibility and then a reality for you. Let's talk about some of that, because you mentioned money and that being kind of like a big thing for you because you grew up in a way that was completely the opposite of the life that you've built for yourself now. So what were some of those major limiting beliefs or fears that you had to clear in order to create this level of like abundance and freedom for yourself?
The biggest one for me was this belief that money is inconsistent. So for me growing up, what that looked like is my dad would have a job and then we wouldn't have a job. We would like get Christmas presents one year and then one year we wouldn't. One day I'd have a phone, the next day it would be cut off. Like, I was programmed to believe that money was this thing that would come and go. So when I started becoming an entrepreneur and I had 1 month that was good, I would immediately be terrified that the next month there wouldn't be any money. And I'd be constantly actually looking at my income and being like, it's gonna leave, it's gonna leave. Like, I would be so scared of it leaving. And so that was a massive one that I had to reprogram. And honestly, the abandonment wound is something that comes up in many areas of my life. So I feel like that's definitely an onion that I'm always unpacking. But it was really clearing. And now I really, truly, in my whole heart, believe that money is so consistent. Out of all my areas in life, I do feel probably the most secure with finances because I've done the most work on it. It was like my thing that my soul came here to master. Now, when I think of money, like for example, me and my boyfriend, we're gonna go away next week and we're gonna book we're going to the Mauritius. It's like this really nice island. And I'm like buying business class, buying like 5-star hotel, which is always my dream. Usually I would spend it and then I'd immediately be like, like it would be this anxious feeling of spending money. Spending money was such a pain for me. Like, I just felt guilty every time I spent money. I wouldn't even if I was making a ton of money, I would hoard it and I would hold on to it, not trusting that it would come back. So that was also a massive thing that I had to heal, which was like, money is made to be fucking enjoyed. Like, what is the point? None of this is coming with us. None of this is coming with us to the other side. So you might as well just enjoy it. Now, that being said, like, Millionaire Marley does not spend beyond her means. It's not, and I'm not spending from a place of ego or to make myself feel a certain way. It's within my energetic alignment with money. And it also is spending from a place that feels really, really good. And I know that when you spend money from a really excited, aligned energy, like, you know, when you sign up for that course and you're so excited, you feel so excited about that, like, that money will always come back. It's when we start spending money out of obligation or FOMO energy or feeling like we have to or feeling like we should, that's when you start disrespecting money, and that's when money will start to disrespect you. It's money is a mirror. And so I would say definitely the inconsistency, definitely trusting and healing my relationship with spending. I just feel like, because growing up, I would look at my parents and I would feel so anxious every time they spent money because I knew we had none. And so my program was like, okay, spending is stressful. And even when I had more than enough, I was so stressed about spending money and it was blocking me from attracting more. On a really deeper level, and the one most recently, is just that I'm always provided for. Your relationship with money, if you are a feminine female, is going to mirror the relationship that you have with the masculine. So growing up, did I trust my dad to protect and provide for me? Well, I love him and he's a perfect dad for me. He's the best, like, he was the perfect soul dad for me. But if I look at the evidence financially, it was, like I said, very inconsistent. So I grew up not trusting the masculine to protect and provide. Then when I got into, hi dad, when I got into entrepreneurship and started making money for my own, I didn't trust money to show up for me. Like, I'd set goals, but I didn't really trust that they were going to come through. I would set these desires, or someone would say, okay, I'm ready to work with you, but I'd never trust them to actually buy. So it was really about healing my relationship with money. And I remember my mentor once said this to me. She was like, I knew my relationship with money was healed because when I went into, and she like named out all these stores, she just went in and she was like, I'll take the jacket in cream and beige and blue. Okay, and then leave. Then I'll take that in small, medium. And then like she just walked into all these shit. I don't even know how much money I spent, maybe like 20, 30 grand. And I just left being like, yep, and felt completely neutral. And I was like, that is so hot. And so that's been my latest, is just spending, or like, I don't want to say, I would say like, I like saying outflow, like outflowing and trusting and knowing it will inflow. And especially if I'm spending it out of joy and pleasure, it's going to inflow like double or triple. And that's just my belief now. And that's what I assume to happen. So that's actually what's been happening. And it's been so beautiful to see and watch. And also, I just get really excited because then I get to teach you guys like, this is what's actually true about money. Money is money's not tied to time. Money's not tied to hard work. Money is just energy.
So true. What would you say to someone who's like, okay, I know that I have some hangups around money. Like I definitely have some programming from my childhood, from society, from my parents, whatever, that I want to work on, but I don't know exactly what it is. Like I can't really nail down, like maybe they're not sure what the block is. Do you have any advice or guidance around someone who's like, I feel like I probably am blocked in some way, but I don't know what that is? How do you even discover initially what these resistances are or these limiting beliefs are?
Such a good question. Okay, there are a few ways that we can uncover this. So, number one, is there like a pattern in your life with money that you're just not enjoying? So, for example, even if you get a raise at work, you still have the same amount of money in your bank account. Or if no matter how many launches you have, you're still hitting the same amount, that means that you have a money block because you're not able to surpass something. There's something blocking you from moving forward. Okay. Also, you have to audit what you think and how you feel about money. Okay. So whenever you're spending money, whenever you look at your bank account, whenever you're in the relationship or in the energy of money, how are you feeling? And for me, what that looked like growing up, like I was so scared every time I checked my bank account. I'm like this is like, and I'm like, okay, that is a money block, because just thinking about this, how you treat money is how money's going to treat you. So think about money being like a partner or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or whatever. It's like, imagine every time your boyfriend came to you and was like, I don't want to look at you. You'd be like, what the fuck? Like, I'm going to go somewhere else, right? So when you're treating money that way, money's going to treat you that way. If you're avoiding it, it's going to avoid you. And then the simplest, easiest way is you just take a piece of paper, and at the top of the paper, you write I'm going to say past, because we're already going to start to rewire it, my past beliefs around money. And then you just write down, what do you think is true about money? What do you think about other people that has money? What do you believe about spending? What do you believe about debt? What do you believe about saving? What do you believe about when you look at your bank account? What do you believe about debt? Like, you just ask yourself, how do I think and feel about money? And give yourself like 10 minutes. Like, don't rush through this. Allow yourself to really go deep on those beliefs. And there's going to be a point, because I know the first time I did this, I was like, I don't want to write that down. I'd have a thought come up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to write that down, because if I write it down, then it's true. The thing is that like, it's in your brain. So you are operating from that belief. So if you can write it down, the better, because then we can rewire it. And then you're going to notice. So I just did this exercise with my client yesterday. And I asked her, like, okay, when it comes to money, what are your biggest obstacles, or where do you beat yourself up when it comes to money and finances? And I'm not going to share what she said for her confidentiality, but let's just say, for example, she's like, well, I'm really bad at managing money. I feel like I always overspend money. I feel like I can never hold on to money. And I'm like, that's interesting, because 30 minutes ago, those were the exact same things that you were complaining to me about around money. So do you see how your beliefs are creating your reality? And you see how you're desiring overflow, you're desiring abundance, but the program that you're putting out into the universe, the math ain't mathing. You're consciously wanting one thing, but your program is saying a completely different thing, which is actually the thing that's creating your reality. The truth of the matter is, it's about uncovering what are those hidden beliefs through a bunch of those exercises that I just mentioned. And also just awareness. So now that you've had this conversation, you will know to become more aware around your money habits. You're like, oh, I just noticed I said this thing about money, or I just noticed I said that, quote unquote, I can't afford that, or I just noticed saying, oh, there's never enough money, or cancel clearly. I don't say those things, but if you notice what you're saying, you start to become aware of it, you're going to start to pick up on your pattern and why your money reality is the way it is. And it's going to be shocking for me in the beginning. I was like, this feels like I have to hike the Himalayan mountains to like overcome this. But with the right tools, you can actually literally clear limiting belief in less than 10 minutes. So don't worry. But the thing is, if you actually want to see change in your life, the first step is awareness, or else it's just operating all within your subconscious, below consciousness. You're not even realizing, and it's creating your reality. I've been studying this shit for like 6 years, and I still have things of like, oh my gosh, that was totally in my subconscious and I didn't even notice. So like, we are all and forever will be learning this stuff, because that's why we're here, to grow. I think the first step, if anything, is just like becoming aware to the fact that you are the creator of your own reality, and your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions are creating that. So when you become aware of that, then you can start to notice what you're thinking, believing, and doing when it comes to money.
I feel like awareness for me was like solved like 50% or more of the problem of so many of my limiting beliefs, like even just becoming aware of them. Then it was less of like this autopilot thing that was just running my life. And I was suddenly, like you said, painfully aware in the moments when I would have certain thoughts about literally anything, about body image, about money, about like anything. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking that. And then, consciously changing those thoughts. But of course, there's other modalities and tools that we can use to kind of clear these subconscious blocks on a deeper level, because there are a lot of people that have the awareness and it's not enough to fully help them, because they're like, I'm aware of my traumas. I'm aware of my problems. I know what happened to me. I know why I think this way. I know because my parents said this. I believe this. And they've got all the awareness, but they're like, and still here I am, like experiencing this pattern. So I know you said it's possible to clear a limiting belief in less than 10 minutes, and you have this clear the fear method. Can you share with us some of like what that looks like? Like, where would someone start if they wanted to really clear a limiting belief and do it in a relatively quick way?
That's the same experience I had. Like, when I was getting into this stuff, I was like, okay, I get it. It's all my subconscious. Like, I get it. I have to change my limiting beliefs, but how? I was so annoyed. I was like, no one's teaching me how. Like, and I'm a Capricorn manifesting generator, okay? So I want everything yesterday. I want to do it in 3 seconds or less, and I don't want to waste time. Like, I want it now, immediately, yesterday. And so when people are like, okay, you just to do like this hypnosis track for 21 days, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I want it now. I want to change it now. And so I've been studying this for 5 years. So I've done rapid resolution therapy, hypnotherapy, time technique, NLP, and what I've basically done is I kind of combined it all into one. So the method Clear the Fear is something that I created, which is, like I said, allows you to clear a limiting belief in less than 10 minutes. I've never experienced anything like it. It is the coolest shit. And when you do it, all my clients are like, what? This is the craziest thing ever. So essentially what happens is all of your beliefs are going to be associated with a bodily feeling. So if you, for example, let's say one of your limiting beliefs is that there's never enough money. That's a really common one that I hear all the time. So if I ask you right now to like, don't do this right now, especially if you're driving, but like bring up this feeling that there's never enough money. Okay. And you're going to notice there's a sensation in your body. You're going to be like, because your brain, your nervous system and your brain are connected. And without like going into this hour talk about science and neuroscience, when your nervous system takes tab of everything, thinking, is this dangerous? Is this safe? Is this dangerous? Is this safe? And for most of us, I would say all of us growing up, our nervous system and our brain made so many tabs around specific things with money and it being unsafe. So then we do everything in our power subconsciously to move away from money because we think that it's actually going to kill us on a like physiological level. And so when we see money and we see this like the idea of like wanting to make more money, our brain goes, no, that's actually dangerous. That is dangerous because we saw mom and dad fighting around money. And so that means if you have money, money is bad. It's not consciously logical, it's subconsciously illogical actually. But our brains make these associations because we think, okay, well, if we saw our parents fighting and if our parents fighting, that means they can't take care of me. And then if I can't take care of me, I'm going to die. So then I don't want to have anything to do with money. So that's what's happening to 99% of us, I would say. And anyways, your brain makes these feelings so that, you know, that feeling like that actually happened to me. I was just telling Sam, we almost got robbed on my way here. And when this happened, my whole body went like, fuck. It's like you like heart beating, heart palpitations. It's like you have a stress response. And what that is actually made for is back in the day, if there was a lion chasing us, it sends energy to your legs and energy to your limbs to run, to get into safety or to respond quickly to run and become safe. But the thing is we're all getting those responses when we open our taxes, when we open our bank account. Our system is not made for modern society. It's like this old tractor living in like Elon Musk's Mars, okay? It's just like not adding up. So when you have these bodily sensations, this shows me that your brain and body have made this connection, this fear around money, meaning there's never enough. And so when I tell you to bring up any belief, I'm just using this as an example, so bring up the belief that there's never enough money, you're going to notice that you have a feeling. For most people, it's going to be in their chest or in their stomach. I would say that's where most people hold the anxiety. And then this is the coolest thing ever. I prompt you and I ask you, okay, go back to the very first time that you felt this feeling. And for most people, it will be in this life, so between the age of 0 and 7. But some people, it even goes back to past life. Your body and your soul has soul memory and can go back. So I heal a lot of my clients from past life. And because back in the day, for example, what we do, Sam, we would be killed on the stake because women were not allowed to work intuitively. We would literally get killed. And so a lot of women that I work with actually have this, it's called now like a witch wound. So if they're living in their potential, they have this soul memory because in a past life, if that happened, they would literally get killed. So they're like, okay, we're not doing that again. So like going on a podcast is like so scary to them because in a past life, they actually passed on from that. So when we go past life, we can clear that. And then clients are like talking on face, like they're just like living their truth, and which is amazing to see. But for a majority of people, they will just go back to an experience in childhood. So I can give you an example. One of my clients was like constantly in overdraft and she was just like so annoyed. She was done. She's like, I'm so done with being in overdraft. She was making really good money, but it was just constantly an overdraft. So like, okay, what is the hidden advantage? There's some sort of benefit for you to be an overdraft or else you wouldn't attract it. Your brain will never let anything into your life that isn't actually a benefit. So I asked her to bring up, what is the fear of being an overflow? Okay, what is the fear of just having and holding on to money? And she was like, oh my gosh, had this fear, went back, and it brought back this memory from childhood when she was on the playground and all of her friends were making fun of all the like wealthy kids. And we're like, oh, they're the worst, da 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 da. And so her brain made this association. Her nervous system went, clocking this, I must never have money because if I have money, then I'm going to lose my friends. And that's a very survival mechanism because back in the day, if you lost your tribe, you died. And so a lot of us are holding on to a lot of fear actually and avoiding losing our partner, losing our friends. I actually was able to break through my highest month ever because I had a belief that if I made a lot of money, then my boyfriend was going to leave me. Like, it completely illogical, but that was just a belief that was underlying for me. Anyways, when we cleared the belief, she hasn't been in overdraft since. And the weirdest thing is that on the call, she had a new client say, yes, I'm ready to sign. And that new client put her out of overdraft permanently since then. Like, so this shit can happen instantly. So it's about going back to the memory, finding the memory, and rewriting the story. So your brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagined. So if I was like, think about a juicy lemon, biting in a juicy lemon, you're squeezing a juicy lemon, it's in your mouth, like your mouth, it's actually happening to me right now, will start to produce more saliva because our brain doesn't know. The brain doesn't know there isn't a lemon, but if you're thinking there is, it feels like there is, it's going to start producing saliva. And so that's kind of like the mechanism that I use. We rewrite this story and we do it in like the best experience. So for example, in that instance, it was like, okay, we saw the kids being like, oh my God, rich people are the best. This is amazing. We like hyped up the opposite positive. And then the brain doesn't see that as fear anymore. It doesn't see having money as danger anymore. It's good, it's cleared. And so that's why it's called clear the fear, because we go back to the moment that your brain created the fear and we rewrite the story and we actually clear on a subconscious level. And the results can happen immediately. You'll see the reality reflected. Just one more story because I think it's so cool. Since February, I've been trying to invest a portion of my money. My boyfriend is a wealth manager and he owns a company, and I've been trying to like invest my money since February. I had this like chunk of cash and nothing was working. Nothing was working since February. I've tried to transfer this money so many times, fail, 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 fail. And I'm like, what is going on? And I was like, oh my gosh, Marley, you have a block. Like, how did this get past me? So yesterday I was sitting there with him and I was like, okay, what, and like, is it between you and I? Like, am I afraid that you're like managing my money? Is this like a big step for us? Like, and then I was like, no, 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 no. And he was like, no, 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 no. And then I was like, okay, wait, let me sit on this. So then I brought up the fear. I went back and I had this specific memory in childhood where I came home and it was like 4 p.m. and all the lights were off in my dad's, like in my parents' room, and my dad was just laying there. And I was like, what happened? He was like, I just lost all of our money in the stock market. And I was like, ugh. And from that moment, I just decided that if you put your money in the stock market, you will lose it. It was like, my brain was like, okay, noted, if you put your money in the stock market, you will lose it. So never put your money in the stock market. Belief is created. And every time I try to invest money, it would be blocked. Okay. So then it's just like my creator field was like, never invest, block, block, block. So then in that moment, I was sitting there, I was like, okay, rewrite this story. And I saw my dad like saying he got so much money in the stock market. And then I even had like a conscious like 3D conversation with my boyfriend of him being like, babe, that was like a very risky investment. We never do that. And he's like, and then I was like, okay, all the wealthiest people in the world invest their money. Like holding it in cash is actually like a very bad investment, blah, blah. Sam, that day the money transferred. I was like, good, like it is the coolest thing to me. So it's really about, I would say, rewriting the story, establishing the feeling, going back, rewriting it. And like, not for everyone it happens instantly, obviously, but it truly can happen instantly, it being reflected back. And it's like, as you can probably tell, I get really excited about how well this works.
I know it's cool when things happen like that, and it's like the first time that you ever like ask for a sign from the universe or something, and then you get it, and you're like, wait, there is a force that is talking to me. You're like, oh, it's like discovering that like energy is real. Energy is real and it's so connected. And like we can almost like, be the puppeteer of making things happen when we do this work. And it's the same feeling when you clear those fears or limiting beliefs. And then you have some sort of like instantaneous revelation of like, oh, like, okay, that worked because they see the results now. Like that has to feel so good. So I'm sure for your clients, that feels like magic. It feels amazing of like, wow, that's cleared. And now I've never been in overdraft, or I no longer have this fear, or I feel relaxed and neutral around money. Like that's amazing. Is that when you go back to the core, when you try to find the core memory or the place that that fear first started, are you using like hypnotic techniques to take people back? Is it just through conversation? If someone is listening and they're like, okay, amazing, but what if I can't remember the first time I felt that way? Or what if I can't remember the memory? Or, some people that maybe have traumatic childhoods, like they don't have a lot of like long-term memory. They kind of like block it out for survival mechanism. What is something that might help someone kind of dig up or drudge up what that core first memory might be?
A good question. So you definitely have to be externally prompt. Like I can do it on myself now, but for anyone listening to the first time, you will need, so in my app, I have the Higher Self app. Clear the Fear is the method in there. So if you're wanting to clear any fears and you're listening to this and you want to try that, we'll leave the 14-day free trial below. So you need someone to prompt you. I have never had a client who hasn't been able to go back and find the memory. Okay. But I will tell you this, for some of my clients, it isn't instant. They're not like, oh, it was 2, boom, and go right back. You have to have patience with it. So remember, you have an ego, and your ego does not want you to let go of any of this stuff because this stuff has kept you alive up until this moment. So the key is we bargain with the ego. If you're sitting there and you can feel the thing, and when I prompt you in the track and I say, okay, go back to the very first time, you're gonna be like, I don't know, where is it? I can't find it. If that's coming up, we just say, okay. I literally tell my clients, okay, we have all day. And you're gonna pause the track and you're gonna say, we have all day. We have nowhere else to be. We have nothing else to do. And we are gonna get here today. And you just breathe and you just keep asking yourself, when is the very first time that I felt this feeling? And you will get it. Even I have clients reach out to me all the time, like, Marley, I have no memories from childhood. I can't, then they remember every single time. So you would be surprised. It's just about having patience. If you're sitting there and you're like in a rush and you want to, like, that's not how the nervous system works. You have to go into it in peace, like deeply breathing, even if you need to do like a vagus nerve activation of like an om or like a hum or anything just to relax yourself, but you can't rush it. Like, think about a child. If you're trying to get a child to sit, you're like, just sit, just sit, just sit, just sit. The child's like, hell no. It's like you're thinking that you're just dealing with a really small child, because that's what we're healing, is your inner child. And so we have to be like, okay, you're having a tantrum, it's okay. We have all the time in the world. I'm just gonna sit here and wait. Like, if you wanna play with me, we can just wait. And I've had to do that for a few of my clients, and we always get there. And actually, those are the clients have the biggest breakthroughs, because the ego was like, oh, fine, we'll let you guys, we'll let you have this one. And then it's like, I've had clients been like, oh my god, I've been in therapy for 10 years, and that was so deep in my subconscious. Like they remember trauma that they, and I don't want it to scare you guys of like, I don't want to remember this trauma. It's in such a healing, beautiful way that is not scary, because we immediately rewrite the story and make it a positive one.
I think it's relieving. I think most people find it relieving to know why.
Oh, it's answers that they've never had their whole life. And they're like, that's why I'm like that, or that's why that money isn't coming, or that's why that's happening. It's like a revolutionary. They're like, it just makes sense now. And they've never had the answers before.
What about this? I want to touch on just quickly again the like hidden advantage, or what people often call like the secondary gain, right?
Yes.
Of holding on to certain limiting beliefs. I think sometimes people struggle to understand why they would ever want to be broke, or why they would ever want to be in this consistent cycle of making a lot of money but then spending it all and not knowing where it's gone. Like these unhealthy, unhelpful patterns that we have sometimes with money, or literally like anything in life, it applies to all. But what is the benefit? How would you describe like that we're actually getting something, we're gaining something from staying in this cycle of being broke or always spending everything that comes in?
So this is how I explain that. So between the ages of 0 and 7, your subconscious mind believed everything it saw. It was like a sponge. Everything that you heard, everything that you saw, everything that you were told, you believed to be true. So if I was like, Sam, you're a princess, you'd literally be like, I am a princess. Like on a deep psychological level, you believe that you're a princess. So everything that you learned about money, you took in as truth. And that became your comfort zone. That is what I like to call your programming. Okay. That's just your normal. And if you're wondering what that looks like today, just take a screenshot of your bank account, take a screenshot of your income. This is your normal. Okay. Whenever anything goes against your normal or threatens your normal, just like Ed Milet always says this, if you're in a room and the AC kicks on because it goes a little bit hotter, it will always bring you back down to the same temperature. If the temperature is set at a certain temperature, because this is what is safe. Your
It's like a
brain has
thermostat. That
yes,
programming that you're talking about, the 0 to 7 is your thermostat. So it's like
exactly.
if we make more, we'll bring it down. If we're super, super low, we'll probably find a way to regulate and get back up to our baseline.
Yes, because your baseline, your brain has decided that's where I'm safe. It's like think
With
about back then.
emotions too. Like we have those baseline emotions where people are like, if anger or frustration or drama or something or chaos is your like baseline foundation from 0 to 7, you will always find a way to put yourself back in drama, chaos, frustration, anger, whatever. Like that is your baseline emotional range. And then you'll be like, why do I keep attracting these types of people? Why am I always in these relationships? Why do I always have drama with friends? Like why? Or it's like, because that's what you're seeking it on a subconscious level. Like you're looking for that. You're creating that scenario over and over again for yourself, because that is your, like you said, comfort zone. That's where your body, your nervous system, your subconscious has identified, this is our safe zone. This is normal. This is home base.
Exactly. So even though you don't consciously want to be losing money every time you make it, or even though consciously you don't want to be spending everything, that's what you saw as normal. So that's your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between real and imagined, and it can't decipher positive and negative. So if I'm like, hey everyone, don't think about a purple cow, don't think about a purple cow, don't think about a purple cow. You're thinking about one, even though I said don't. It's because everything your brain takes in is just like, yep, yes, yes, yes. So even if you say, I don't want to be in debt, cancel literally, it just here's more debt. So despite you not wanting these things, you can try to conscious your way out of it all day long. But if it is a program for you, if it is your comfort zone, if it is ingrained into your brain, you cannot outrun your subconscious mind. You cannot outwish your subconscious mind. That's like fixing an inside problem from the outside. You have to fix the inside problem from the inside. So the reason why you're attracting it is just because this is your normal. It's like if you program 101.1 on the radio to country music, no matter what freaking radio station you try to go to or what, however you're doing, if you want country music, you have to go to 101.1. So if you want to change your programming, if you want to change your reality, you have to go back into the subconscious. You have to go to your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions, because only when you change those will you change your reality. And just one more example, because I love an example, is if you think about a movie theater and you think about a projector, okay? The tape in the projector is your subconscious mind. It's your beliefs, it's your thoughts, it's your actions. And it's getting projected onto the screen, which is your reality. So if we want to change your reality, we don't go to the movie screen and try to change the screen to change the movie. We go to the tape and we take out the old tape and we add a new tape. That's what we're doing when we reprogram your subconscious mind. We're changing the tape. We're changing your story. We're not trying to mess with the screen and be like, why isn't the movie changing? I'm adjusting the screen. It's like you have to go to the root. I could give 12 other examples, but you will always manifest what is your comfort zone, even if it consciously you don't want it. This is just what you've been programmed and what you believe is your safe zone.
Hot take. Sometimes I feel like the biggest block is believing that you have a block.
Oh, yes.
I think this can be a thing where people get addicted to, like, everything that we've said stands true. But in addition to that, it's like, where do we draw the line between, oh my God, I have a block, and like, maybe it's not a block, maybe you just need to like actually do something or like change what you're doing. Like, what is the point at which we have to kind of decipher, like, is this actually a block, or are we just always believing that I'm blocked because it's convenient for us to be like, oh, I don't know why I'm not, earning more money, or I never get chosen for the promotion, or my friends always do whatever, and you're like, I must have a block. Sometimes it could be a block, but like, where do we draw that line, right, of being addicted to this idea of like, I'm blocked.
I'm literally like on the edge of my seat. I'm like, okay, this is what it comes down to. This is my hot take. I 100% agree, because if you say that you are blocked, then you're gonna be blocked, right? So you're just re-manifesting the block by repeating that you have a block. So this is how I like to think about it. Your reality is created between your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions. So if you're actively, I think people get stuck in the block when they're so focused on the beliefs and the thoughts and they're not at all considering their actions. They're like, I don't know what it is, but I just can't get more clients. I'm like, well, are you selling? Have you posted on Instagram? Have you done any of the actions? And they're like, no. I think it's an excuse to not take action, if I could actually summarize it. And so then you have to say, okay, am I actually taking all of the aligned action that I feel in alignment with, and it's still not happening? And I'm following my intuition, and I'm seeking guidance, and I'm learning from people who are where I want to be, and it's still not happening. Then I would just ask yourself, okay, is there some sort of advantage for me not to hit this goal? And then you can research of like, okay, maybe I have some sort of belief that is incongruent to my desires. But that's if you're taking all the action, because at the end of the day, I think social media can be a little bit of a false promise when oh my God, I just made $1 million overnight, and oh, I just did a launch and made $5,000. And then you're looking at all these examples and being like, why am I not doing that? So making sure that you don't compare yourself to anyone in their journey. You're on your own journey and everything is happening in their own time. And if you're looking at someone else and looking at their success, and you're like, I don't have that, I must be blocked. That's also a very slippery slope to be in, because it's their journey. I always say, like, put your horse blinders on, look at no one else. Do not be distracted by anyone else. This is your journey. Everything that you want will come to you. You're just at level 2 right now, and you're comparing yourself that's at literally level 30. Okay, they've passed all these lessons that you still need to pass to get there. So never compare. And again, I'm not perfect with this. I definitely think I still have tendencies of comparing myself, which I'm working on. But you're not blocked. You're just maybe not taking the aligned action to get yourself there, and you're having
Or you're
expectations.
believing that you should be further along
Yes.
than where you are, which is an
Yes.
unrealistic timeline that you're expecting for yourself.
Yes, it's expectations, and it's looking for instant gratification without any sort of timeline. I think those are a few things that are creating this, but what do you think about that actually?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it sometimes is an easy cop out
Yeah.
of like not having to change or really like do the hard work. Like maybe there is something that's going to require effort, or maybe it's something that's going to require risk, or it's going to require courage, or it's going to require bravery, and you're resisting doing that thing because you know it's going to require that of you. And then you're like, oh, I'm just so blocked. And it's like, it's so much like easier for you to sit with your notebook or with your coach and be like, I think I have a block, than actually like go out and forge the path and do the things and take the risk and have the courage.
Yes, to all of that.
Well, I'm glad we covered that, because I think, yes, it's amazing to understand like the science and the spirituality and the energetics of being able to release these limiting beliefs and change and alter our subconscious mind and insert new programming, but also to kind of talk about that side of, not getting stuck in this feeling of you always have a block. Sometimes I call it like the healing trap. I think there are some people that are chronically in this place of believing that they have so much work to do.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the work is never done and we're always on a journey, but I think that can bring you down when you're just constantly believing that there's more to fix, more to fix, more to fix, more to fix. And it's almost like sometimes in personal development, I think people enjoy the experience of altering themselves in some way, whether it's psychologically or physically or through like the mindset stuff. It's like there is a gratification of like learning new things about yourself, taking all the personality tests, like discovering these new things, astrology, human design. Oh my God, I know this about myself, this about myself. And then they get addicted to like that path and they're almost looking for opportunities of new healing modalities because they want to find something wrong with themselves, because it's like a hobby.
Yeah.
It's like fixing themselves becomes like a hobby,
Yeah.
to where they're like, oh, have you heard of like such and such fucking therapy, whatever? And they're like, oh, I want to do that because I want to find the dirt inside of me. like we almost get like we get off. It's like a kink of like, finding our darkness or always thinking that there's something more. And so I think that is a very real side, especially now that we've gone through, I think like the pandemic time was a big period of so many people waking up and going deep into personal development, healing modalities. There's so much more talk about therapy. Like it seems like all the young people and everyone on TikTok now, they all have the therapy jargon. Like it's amazing that all of this is happening. And I think now, because we've had several years of a lot of people going deep, that there's this new kind of like, it's almost like a hobby. Finding things wrong with yourself and then trying to fix them is like a hobby. It's like how people take biohacking like so far, to the point where you're like, okay, because now it just feels like a new version of like a disordered thing that you're like so obsessed with it. Like, it's like we love it because initially we're like, oh my God, this cold plunge, like, yes, it's making me feel all the things. Great. But then you get to like someone like the Liver King or like something where it's like, it just becomes so extreme where you're like, and now it's unhealthy again. And so I think it can be the same for personal development work. It's like it starts out really transformative, but if we take anything to an extreme, it's probably not going to be that good for us.
Yeah, and like I just think about the law of focus, right? So whatever you focus on, you get more of. So if you're constantly focused on what's wrong with me, you're constantly gonna find things that are wrong with you. And it's really about balance, I would say. Like cold plunging is great, but doing it every day, no. Like and there's a time and place definitely for healing, but also there's also a time and place for existing and enjoying and integrating and living and just enjoying life. I'm all for healing. I'm all for personal development. Obviously, it's like I love this stuff, but if I get too caught up in it, I'm missing the whole point of being here.
And the whole point of the work. Like the point of the work is so that you can live a joyful, fulfilled, free, peaceful life. So if you're so stuck in always doing more and more and more and more and more work to the point where it's kind of dragging you down and you're not even living that, free, peaceful, joyous life, then it's counterintuitive to the whole point of why you were doing the personal development. So I totally agree. There's a time for, doing the work, and then there's also time for living, for relaxing, for enjoying, for being like riding the wave. Like you paddled all the way out and now, but then you got to catch the wave. What is the point of surfing? What's the point of being out there if you're not going to like catch a wave and actually enjoy while you're riding it?
Amen.
So good. Okay. I want to ask you about like, if people could spy on just like a regular day in your life, what do you think that they might find surprising or be like, oh, that's well, which is hard when you share a lot of your life online. You're like, I don't know if anyone would find this surprising, but let's just say, like a random person. I feel like mine is that I don't really have a morning routine. And I feel like that's something that if people were to spy on my day to day, they'd be like, oh, I would think that Sam would be the person that's like, journaling for an hour, like doing all these like things in the morning. And I don't really do that anymore. So is there anything that you can think of, like if someone were to spy on your life for a day that might be interesting, Marley?
It's so funny. Okay, so firstly, I love this question. And I don't know if this is like the right answer, but this is the first thing that comes to mind. I think people would be surprised about like how silly I am. I feel like when I'm on the podcast and I'm online, I'm like teaching and educating and showing up in like in this like teacher archetype, but in my true reality, like when I'm with my friends or when I'm with my boyfriend, I am so silly, I'm so jokey, I'm so like childlike and very playful. And I feel like no one online, like if you know me, you know that about me, but I feel like online people have no idea that I'm like that. And I definitely want to bring that more obviously like through, but also it's like it's just like when I'm being me, when I'm just like being silly me, I think people would be surprised of how much of a like playful, like not childlike I am actually, and get very like I have like childlike joy all the time, like yeah. And I think that would really surprise people.
I resonate with that for sure. And I've talked about this with some of my friends that are also online and also clients, because my clients will be like, Sam, you're so much better in person. Like, you're so funny. Like, and I'm like, I am funny, but I feel like, to your point, how you're like, I want to bring more of that online. I think the reason why it's hard to bring it online is because a lot of times the work that we're doing online is like we're not interacting with other people. It's like when you're in a group conversation or your friends come over and you're talking, you make these like funny comments or like add funny voice effects or like do a silly dance move, like something. And it's like that happens as a reaction and a response to the group dynamic. And when we're teaching and showing up online and creating content, it's like just us. And so that's at least that's what I found for me is like I'm not actively shielding or like hiding that part of my personality. I just think when I'm alone looking into a camera talking into a mic, there's not as many like opportunities for me to like bounce off of people or like respond in that way to showcase that side of my personality. I don't know if you feel the same.
That's so accurate because yeah, like when I'm like relaxed after work, like that's when my like childlike joy comes out. Not that when I'm working I'm stressed, or sometimes I am, but I'm just working. Like I'm in my mask and I'm producing a result. I'm getting things done. Whereas when I'm relaxing and I'm at home, I'm in more of my feminine and I'm just being and I'm enjoying and I'm feeling like I'm in that pleasure state of just like being. And when I'm working, I'm really producing a result. But I do agree with what you're saying. I think if people and when people meet me in real life, they're like, whoa, like it's just it is a different energy because I'm not work Marley. I'm just Marley.
Yeah, so true. What has your experience been with showing up online in general and kind of like being your authentic self? Did you ever have resistance to it, or have you always just kind of been like the person that wants to, like, you said you love to talk? I
Mm.
feel like I've always been like a natural sharer or oversharer. Like I'll share anything. I don't really have any like shame
Same.
around sharing like a lot of the details about like my life and a lot of situations that the podcast probably knows too much about me, to be fair. But of course, my expression has evolved and deepened and become more authentic over time. Sometimes I look back at the first videos that I ever did on Instagram stories and my voice is so
Same.
light and so high. And it's not that I wasn't being authentic. It's just that I wasn't as comfortable. But I know that there's a lot of people that have a gift to share. They want to express themselves, but they do have these blocks around like authenticity or being themselves. So as we kind of talk about, these authentic sides, I was just curious if you ever had anything like that or any challenges with showing up online.
Definitely in the beginning. Definitely. I was so scared to be online. I was so scared to show my face. I was so scared to be seen. But I feel like with all my clients, they're so scared and they do it once, like, oh, this is fine. So I feel like once I started to get into it and I would get feedback from people like, oh my God, I love to see your face. I love to hear your voice. And my love language is words of affirmation. And as a mini gen, my thing is to respond. So I'm like, oh, you guys like this? I fucking love this. Let's do this more. And I just feel like you, I kind of grew into it. I will listen to videos of me. I'm like, who is that speaking? It's like, hi guys, it's Marley. So like that girl was clearly not as comfortable, but now I'm like literally sitting with you, sitting back, like talking. So now I feel very comfortable. But again, I get questions like that all the time. Like, Marley, how are you so comfortable behind the camera? I'm like, again, I've been doing this for so long that now I feel comfortable. But in the beginning, I didn't. I had to overcome a lot of limiting beliefs about being seen, being heard, afraid of judgment, afraid of what other people think of me. But once I cleared those, now I can hop online and like talk to you, and there's nothing but excitement and joy. And like you, I'm like, I spill all the tea. Like my boyfriend, I'm like talking about, like I tell everything. And that's just who I am. That's I think why we're podcast hosts, because this is the shit we live for.
This is so true. I know sometimes I'm like, should I have asked him before I said that? But it just kind of like came out. I hope it's okay. One time because I had a podcast interview and I was being asked about like my sex life as a CEO and entrepreneur. And we published it recently on my show, but it was originally on my friend Chelsea's show, In My Non-Expert Opinion. And we like kind of went deep into that topic, and I was like, yeah, sometimes I'll initiate or I'll ask him and he's like, no. And then we're like, should we have more sex? I'm like fully going into like this whole thing, like, oh, like sex toys, like do this, like spice, like talking about all these things. And my team creates a clip, like a trailer for the podcast, and it shows up like on his feed, and it's like a B-roll video of us. So he's in the video and the audio is me being like, should we have more sex? Like all these things. He's like, what is this episode? What is this?
I thought you're podcasting. We're like, yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah, hopefully that was okay. I'm sorry. And I probably need to work on that of asking for permission for things, but he also like, he loves me for me and knows my personality, and that's just how it is.
He knows. I always, because like now we kind of get recognized when we go out. They'll be like, oh, are you more da, da, da?" And he's so shy. And so he will be like, oh my God. Like, it's like, but I'm like, babe, are you okay with this? He's like, yeah, no, I know. I know what I was getting into. So I was like, okay. Because I like love this. I love meeting people. Like, it's so exciting for me. But I'm like, I was actually saying on the way here, I feel like we need like an award ceremony for men like dating spiritual women. Like the shit that he has to like hear me like say and endure. He's like the best. But it's so funny to me because I just don't think he ever thought he'd be like talking to anyone about like the solar eclipse and how that impacted the full moon and my emotions. He's like, what? But he's so good about it.
Wait, where did you meet him? Where is he from?
He's South African. So I met him in Cape Town.
Oh my gosh. You guys sound cute and fun together. Yeah, they do need awards. Our men need awards for many things. For the content, the photos, just the conversations that they have to be open to with us. Like it's wild. But yeah, my partner and I have been together for almost 10 years. So
Wow.
his mind has changed a lot in the last decade
Wow.
being with me, which is fun.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's been a long ride, but it's fun to watch them kind of like grow and evolve with you and alongside you. So thanks for coming on today, Marley. This was so fun. I loved this conversation.
So fun. And you're going to be coming on my show next week. So I cannot wait for part 2.
Yeah, you guys will have to go tune into Marley's show. We're going to leave that 14-day free trial in the show notes for you guys if you want to try out Marley's app, which is amazing. And then let them know where they can connect with you.
Thank you so much, by the way. So Sam's coming on the podcast. So it's just the Money Mindset Mission Show. I'm sure we'll link it below. And you can find me anywhere at Marley Rose Harris. And if you're interested in also getting and learning the Clear the Fear method to do with your clients or on yourself, I am launching a program on how to learn how to do exactly that and heal your subconscious limiting beliefs.
Yay! All right, you guys, if you don't already follow Marley, give her a follow. We'll leave everything in the show notes. If you loved this episode, if you have a personal development girly that you want to send it to, copy the link, send it to a friend, let them know you were thinking of them, and we will see you guys next week. Mwah!